Rachel, what's that? I thought you were supposed to be planning a lesson plan on the Revolutionary War.
This is part of my lesson plan. I'm going to be using an interactive game to help my students remember some of the key events that happened throughout the war.
Games? I don't use games in my classroom. I use books and paper.
Well, I use books and paper too, but I like to enhance my lessons using different technologies to make fun and interactive activities. It helps my students understand the information better. It's like Robler states in his book.
Well, that stuff takes a lot of time.
Well, actually, using the different technologies is a time saver. Like Robler points out, it helps free up a lot of valuable time that could be rechanneled into helping our students with different activities.
Rachel is right. This article I'm reading called Lights, Camera, Learning talks about how video can be used to add motion, sound, and a sense of real life to social studies instruction. In fact, in this Revolutionary War unit, I'm going to start with an introduction video that I'm making on the different figures that are important in the Revolutionary War.
Well, let's see the so-called educational video. Okay.
Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, General George Washington, Patrick Henry, John Adams, Thomas Paine, and the infamous King George III were all extremely important in the struggle now known as the Revolutionary War or the War of Independence. Today in our lesson we will be learning about some of the men who affected the outcome of our country becoming the United States of America. In 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was signed, the country we know of as America was no more than 13 colonies that had always been ruled by a government an ocean away. And even though many weren't happy about the way England ruled, it was until people such as Patrick Henry, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Paine spoke up that many really started thinking about starting their own American government.
Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, so as to be purchased at the price of the chains of slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. The young representative from Virginia, Patrick Henry, spoke these words in March of 1775. Like many other people at this time, Patrick Henry was fed up with the way Britain was treating the American colonies.
As you can see, video is a great tool to use in the classroom. Another great way to integrate technology into the classroom is podcasting. Podcasting is a great tool for the classroom because it allows students to show what they have learned in a fun and engaging way. Podcasting can be used for many things, including testing and even homework assignments. For this certain lesson, students could interview a historical figure and make a podcast about their findings. As it states in our book by Robler and Doring, students can interview local figures or experts to research issues or events and make and post a podcast.
Both Patrick Henry and John Adams were lawyers and statesmen who tried for many years to uphold the British law fairly. But when the injustices of the British government became too strong, they turned their energies to creating new governments and new laws.
There is probably no more interesting a figure in American history than Benjamin Franklin. The son of a candle maker, Franklin grew to become a writer, a printer, a scientist, and an inventor. A diplomat and a statesman. One of Franklin's greatest achievements for his country was during his time as ambassador to France during the Revolutionary War, when he was able to help secure French support in the fight against England.
Integrating technology into the classroom is becoming increasingly more important. We live in what's known as the internet era, where you can pretty much do anything online. Teachers can use web design software to create web-based lessons, classroom web pages, or even to display student-produced work. All these different resources can be used to help students become more engaged in the material that they're learning. Take, for instance, the lesson from this video. A teacher may consider producing a web quest, which will help guide the students in conducting further research on the topic or a historical figure of their choosing. By creating a web quest, the teacher helps students to weed out some of those more unreliable web pages such as Wikipedia.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
These words are part of the Declaration of Independence, which was primarily written by Thomas Jefferson, as a formal statement to the world that British government would no longer be accepted by the people of the United States of America. Thomas Jefferson represented the state of Virginia at the Continental Congress, and many of the rights that we enjoy today owe to the laws that he believed in and helped craft.
There were two Georges at the center of the war for America's independence: King George III and George Washington. George Washington, a delegate from Virginia who had earned the rank of colonel in the earlier French and Indian War, was elected commander-in-chief of the Continental Army in 1775. He spent the next 6 years fighting the war with Britain, where he had mostly untrained men and few supplies. Still, his military genius and faith in the country America would become led his army to triumph. And in 1781, he was able to accept the surrender of the British General Cornwallis. Further, in 1787, he became the first president of the United States of America.
It is important that technology always be used with a purpose in mind in the classroom, and not just as an attention getter or a reward. These aren't terrible ways of using technology, but they're not the most effective either. Whatever way a teacher chooses to use technology, they should make sure to remember the 3 questions identified by Roblier and Doring. 1. What are the current unmet needs in the classroom, and can technology address them? 2. What are we teaching now that we could teach better with technology? And 3. What can we teach with technology that we couldn't teach before but should be taught?
King George III was one of the longest-ruling English kings in history, but his role in the American colonies was cut short by the Revolutionary War. A series of laws known as the Intolerable Acts were made by King George's government to punish the American colonies for their complaining about British rule. But instead of stopping the complaining, the laws just made Americans angrier and more ready to rebel against England and the king.
I cannot conclude without mentioning how sensibly I feel the dismemberment of America from this empire, and that I should be miserable indeed if I did not feel that no blame on that account can be laid at my door. And I did not also know that knavery seems to be so much the striking feature of its inhabitants, that it may not be in the end an evil that they should become aliens to this kingdom. King George III. To letter to Lord Shelburne, 1782. In other words, it's not my fault, and good riddance, America.
We hope you enjoyed this lesson. I'm Rachel Higginbotham.
I'm Teddy Reitz.
And I'm Amber Bright, and I hope you learned something.